Right, let's have a look at this technique, which is essentially something you may have seen a little video of just a smooth motion moving, and then there's some lightning coming out of a little cloud. But perhaps the most important part is a little bit further in the video. Let's see this one here. Well, this one here is actually one of the steps needed to get there. There's lighting from this side, lighting effect from the other side, and let me see, I think this one does not have any lightning. That's the original unlit version, so to speak. This one has rain and lightning and everything, and you see the lightning bolts strike and seemingly cast shadows, or the lighting effects on the terrain is coming from one side or the other side, depending on where I want that lightning strike to come from. So I want to show how to do that. First thing we'll do, you know, we could start by creating the animation, but we've seen this how many times now, how to create the terrain. Let me start by loading it. We have not talked much about that yet. When you go and load an animation, we have, let's see, clouds, howler. Let's not, oh, we need to go into the stored area here. There you go. Daily dose, designer, there, stormy night. Okay, so there's a couple of AVI files here, and I think this one has just a movement without any lightning. We can scrub through that, preview the video, and say which part we want to use. So that's an interesting thing to know too. If you have a very long AVI file but you want to only work on a small portion of it, it will tell you here how many frames you are selecting. And so let's say we want to go all the way to about here. All right, so we are selecting just these frames. Now the thing is, I need to really get back to the original. I cannot work from this to do the lighting effect. Okay, so the technique really is like this. Let's start from scratch here. Let's go and free the animation and start with you know, how do we do the lightning effects. And one thing I wanted to show you is, of course, we've seen this actually when we use the linear gradient tool to create the river canyon. Maybe we did it in the middle, maybe we did one here. Wherever we do this, that's where we got the canyon go through. That's when we then went to filter, render, plasma noise, and we set this in difference mode. So we got this black line going here. If we increase the size and then just click it a few times until we get a nice path there, that's a good way to start and you know, work with the adjusting the value, the contrast, or maybe the curves to bring it down to a very nice crisp contrast. So you get a very black line here on pretty much white, solid white outline, and if it's not perfect, you can still adjust later on, adjust dynamic range, or adjust over here with the value, make it more contrasty. And that's how I created some of these lightnings, right? So you do that a couple of times, and one easy way to do that several times quickly is, you know, when you use this tool, rather than having one here, you also have another one here, and you have another one here. Create a large banner window, and then go and do this a few times. So use the sweep editor here with this gradient going from black to white, but use the opacity also to bring it down to low opacity on the end. Let's move it down a little bit. And so now when you start from this gradient, you can go like this and then do another one and perhaps give it a little bit different orientation, and basically do a couple of those, right? So now as you're using that filter for render plasma noise, you're going to get a couple of lightning strikes here, all in the middle, right? You see those? Not all of them are going to be necessarily pretty or usable, but just do a few of those like this, and then adjust, what was it, with the curve tool, for instance. Adjust this like so, and so there you have a lightning here, you have another one here. Maybe you need to invert it, of course, There you go, you got a lightning strike here, another one here, and this one maybe we won't use because it's too close to the edge here. But what you can do is simply select that. Right, you can go maybe with the lasso tool, kind of do a selection of about this much, something like that, and then turn this into a brush. Might want to blur it out a little bit on the selection as well. That would be here. Blur the selection, not really needed, because what we'll do is we'll use it only in additive mode. So what we'll do is we'll select the brush here, use selected as brush. So we have a brush here now, and what we'll do is we'll put it to full opacity and additive mode. So now even though we see the whole brush here, when we pin it, when we paint it, it will only add, it will have the black side transparent. It will not make it opaque. Well, it shouldn't anyway. But the thing is, it's not totally black on this one. We need to adjust the contrast a little bit more. Anyway, that's not the thing I wanted to focus on. What I want to focus on really is, well, let's do this. Let's adjust the contrast a little bit more. Value, something like this. Let's like this. We really want to have a very narrow line. Let's grab this one. So this one I'll grab a little bit faster, like so. There, that's our lightning strike. And what we also want to do is adjust the transparency. So right click on this, select the transparent part, and so you're good. You have a lightning strike. Let's go store that as a brush. Let's make sure the mode is additive. I don't know if it will remember that when we store it. We may need to reset that, but here's our lightning strike. So the thing is, let's go create quickly a terrain, and that will be something like render, plasma noise, there you go, and disable the preview. And so we'll create our terrain, and 3D designer is here. Alright, just very quick, what do? We have a little bit more mountain. We have the lighting coming from the side. We have the light range from above. We have shadows cast. A little bit brighter on this. There you go. Okay, and then we also have erosion to make it even better. There you go, maybe a little bit of this. All right, you know the spiel. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll create an animation, and this animation, let's make it very short, 88 frames, or even shorter. There, 44. Okay, and so this animation, what we'll do is we'll simply go into this thing, but we'll do this a few times. So into the terrain, flying into it, and so we'll need this terrain, this animation a few times. Let's store it to disk so we can quickly get back to it. Here's one. Right. So let's do the animation initially with this. We've done this so many times now. 1, 2, 3. Go down to 3D designer, and there it is. All right. So what we want to do is perhaps rotate it a little bit like this, make it a right angle. There you go. And so the idea is that we'll be flying into this, and as we're flying, we need the lighting to hit it. When the lighting appears on the left side here, we need the light source, the lighting effect, to appear to come from this side. But then there's another lightning bolt, and that other lightning bolt might be from the right side, so we need to also have it from this side, right? But the thing is, it's not always lighting, right? Most of the time there's no lighting. So we'll do a render first without the lighting. This one here, right? So let's go and do this render like so. Let's define the path that we will use for all of these. Let's go move it a little bit here and rotate it, something like that. It's not perfect. The idea is we want to get to the scene and the animation of it but then really focus on the lighting. All right, so this is what the animation will do. It will kind of softly zoom into it or move into it. Let's see. There. Okay, so we'll come from here and we'll set a keyframe, and then we'll go to the end and move in very slowly, perhaps also tilt a little bit and move up. There you go. All right, so we have an animation sequence going from one position to the other, and who knows, there might be another keyframe needed here, perhaps way down, something like that. Right. So you can move these keyframes, you can set the animation the way you want it. And now there's one more thing, maybe the lighting. Maybe we need a cloud here, maybe we need the sky to be not totally black. Let's add, let's middle click on that with the thumb drive and add a cloud, something like this. Let's make this cloud go all the way in the back and way above the mountains there, somewhere around like that. So the background color will also affect the cloud color. Let's set the background color to a little bit bluish tint and still very dark. There. Okay, that's good enough. Let's perhaps bring it down in size and not much of a cloud, but it'll do. All right, so what we also need to do is perhaps add some quality on the anti-aliasing. Do we want ambient occlusion? Let's see if that helps us perhaps get a little bit better contrast in the dark areas. You know, let's do without for this test. You know what you need as you go through that. What we'll simply do now is say, okay, that's it. The only thing we'll be changing now we will do 3 renders. One is this one without any lightning effect. So there is no direct sunlight like this, except maybe a little bit if you want the moon to be out there, right? If you want to make it look like the moon is shining above the scene, and it's not really a fully covered sky with rain, or if there's some city lights, street lights or whatnot nearby, you might want to have a little bit of ambient light, but also a tiny little bit of directional light coming from the side wherever the moon is, right? But let's assume we don't have even that. We have just a little bit of light range like this. All right. We'll also save that, and so that's essentially what we need to save and render. So let's go do that. Apply that. So once we have that render, and this one is the one we do at high quality with anti-aliasing and so on. So we'll wait for that one to complete. And once we have that render, and you know what, I don't have time, so I'm going to stop this and undo that and just do it much faster. So middle click again here to go back into the settings and reduce the anti-aliasing maybe to just 2 levels. There. Let's see if that's going to be fast enough. And apply. Still a bit on the slow side. You know what? Since it's just for the demonstration of how to do that lighting and lightning coordination, let me stop that. We don't need to have this at highest quality yet. So I'm going to undo that, go back in with the middle button here, and set it off without anti-aliasing, and there. So that hopefully will go render a little bit faster. There you go. You can see it go through frame by frame. Only 44 frames, almost done. All right, so this is the rendering that in theory should be at highest quality, good anti-aliasing, but without directional light, or only a tiny little bit if there is some moon, if there's a moon somewhere. All right, so never mind the fact that the rendering is not of very good quality, but what we want to do is see that we can use this and it does not have any lights. So what we'll do is we'll store this one under animation, store animation to disk. Right, so this is one of the animations we will need. Now let's go and undo this, or simply click on this here, right? But perhaps undo is better and safer, because then that way we don't lose all these. Well, actually, this one wouldn't be lost. Let's see if that works too. Right, and then yeah, we can still scrub through that and still remembers the positions and everything and the settings. But now one thing we'll do is we'll right click on that, or middle click, excuse me, and go back to the attributes, and this time we will increase the light range on that directional light source. And so that way, if we have lightning strike out of this cloud coming here under the hills or anywhere on the left side, we will make it look like we have this lighting effect on this illumination effect on the terrain coming from that. These scenes will only be shown partially, not the entire frame sequence, not the entire animation. Only some of the frames will be shown. When the lightning strikes, we want the lighting effect. We also want the ambient light to brighten up a little bit. Right, so give it a little bit more on the second light there as well. Okay, and so then we go and apply that. And this one we can actually do, even when we did the other one at final render with high quality anti-aliasing, we really don't need the high quality anti-aliasing on this one, because these frames are only some of these frames will be shown. Okay, we will not have them at very high frame. We will not have many of these frames showing in a sequence. So it doesn't matter if there's a little bit of noise or flickering or bad quality shadows and so on. It just won't be noticed. So you can actually afford to take a shortcut here on the rendering time. And so what I'll do is I'll go to the animation and store this one as well. So now we have our second animation. And we could do this for a few more. If you have lightning strike on the other side as well, let's undo this and middle button again into the attributes one more time, and this time we'll change the lighting to come from this side, and maybe it's way up there, but far away, right? So a little bit darker, a little bit not so bright, but also a little bit brighter on this. Who knows? I mean, there's so many different ways you can play with these to cast the right shadows. Maybe make it a little bit lower and therefore look like this lightning that strikes far away, and we do and apply that one as well. So now we have another. This is our third render, and what I want to do is basically coordinate or combine these in such a way that most of the animation will come from this one here without the lightning effect, but some of the frames will have to be borrowed from this one, and some other frames might also need to be borrowed from yet another one, this one we just created. So what I'll do is I'll store this one as well, and store animation to disk. Alright, so we have 3 animations stored, and we can pretty much well, we can probably forget this one. We'll get rid of that in a second. Let's go and select this one. This is the main rendering. This one should be potentially at high quality, high anti-aliasing, and so on. And as we go through that, there is lightning striking somewhere around here. Now, if we look at this animation that we stored, that's when we want to borrow these images, these frames, but only at the right time, when we are looking at the same position. These are the same number of frames, and the camera path was identical. The only thing that we changed from one rendering to the other was the amount of lighting and the direction of lighting. So what we'll do is we'll combine with the filter down here in the combine group, combine with swap. We'll say let's grab it from, let's mix the buffers, right? That allows you to mix the image from from the main image with the one that's in the swap image. Now in the swap image there's nothing right now, unless maybe the terrain, if you added some coloring or texturing or something like that. That's not what we want. What we want is this one, right? So just check this box here and say use as animated swap. And so as you have chosen this image to be animated swap, you can scrub through that, and you can see that it now can grab the image from the swap side or from the main side. The main image is right here. That's the main image, the main animation. And the swap side is invisible. That's in the swap buffer. And you can actually switch it here to see it, right? But it grabs it frame for frame from one or the other side, or anyway blended in between. So let's say we want to have a lightning strike right here on the left side. You want to go to high brightness here. Favor the swap image. So just before that you have nothing. Let's go increase the size here so we can really focus on these frames. You see this frame, you have no brightness showing. There you go. Next frame, boom, suddenly the lightning strikes, full brightness. Keyframe that. And then it kind of fades away and comes to about not totally dark again. And then there's a second lightning. Boom. All right, and then it kind of comes all the way almost dark, and then there's a third one, or maybe a little bit later. Maybe there's a little delay. Make another keyframe here, actually lower. And then this frame here, we have one more, but it's a little bit weaker, so not that bright. You can adjust this, you use this to make it a little bit darker or brighter. And so when I render that, when I apply that, we now have a lightning mixed in from this swap image. And check this when I play the animation. There you go. We now have this lightning appearing, or the lighting effect appearing on the left side. And we can do that also on the right side now. Right, so we can say, okay, this was good for the left, now let's do the right side with this guy. Let's switch to this guy as the animated swap. If you like the animation you have so far, by the way, here, you should probably keep it. You should probably store that somewhere. So let's go do the same thing as we did before. Store animation to disk. And actually, you may want to save it to a VI or image sequence to be on the safe side. But let's keep working on this. Let's go now and select a different filter, and then back to this one. Or we could have simply deleted the keyframes, and we now select a different keyframe and a different animation. The lighting that comes from this side here is on the right side, and you see the lighting effect is on the right. All right, so we will do the same thing here to make it look like there is lighting effect first here. That's what we just previously did on the left side, and shortly after this double whammy of lighting effect, we want another lighting starting here. And so here we go with nothing from the right side, and then boom, we have a bright bolt hitting it here, and then another one, keyframe that, another one here, lightning high, keyframe that, and then perhaps a little bit lower, it kind of fades away, and then suddenly it comes back up to very bright, and then it's dark again. So do a couple of zigzags, and if they are too close, you can grab these. If you want them closer, you can move them together. And so what you see here is that the lighting effect is going to come in from the right side. All right, apply that. And so now we have blended another two images together, another two movies together. So we have the first lighting on the left side, and another one on the right side shortly thereafter. Right. Now this was only 44 frames, so it's going way too fast. Maybe if I time stretch it, it'll look ugly, but it will slow it down a little bit. Let's make it twice as slow with frame blending, and that will give us a little bit better idea of what's happening at what point. But that's what I wanted to show you. So the technique is to use this mix buffers to say blend the image from one animation or the image from the other animation, and keep going back and forth between the two so that you can decide which one actually is providing that dominant lighting. And so now once you have that, the trick there now is to say, well, show me the lighting, right? So we have a lightning bolt like this one, and we can enable the preview. And maybe we need to make it a little bit smaller. Maybe we don't care for it to be, let's see, we need to have it in additive mode. And maybe we don't care for it to be exactly that orientation every time. We can actually set the settings here. Let's go close this. We can set the settings to have, let's see here, enable transform, enable random size, and a random angle a little bit too, and random position. We don't need to be precisely dictating where that's going to happen. Now it's still too big. Even with random size, they're not going to be the same size everyone. They're not going to be the same orientation either, but it's going to be too big. So I need to have these a little bit smaller. We can do that here with the size, since we have enabled brush transform. Now the preview is still showing the original size, but we'll get the smaller size when we actually hit it. If you want to see the preview at the smaller size, there's another way to do that, and that is essentially by looking at this and working from this one. Right there, you actually set the size, it resamples it and loads that as the current brush. So, but then of course we still have the random size and the smaller size in effect right now here. So I'm going to go and set the size at full, and I'm going to, in this case, reduce the random size, random angle, and sometimes it's good when you can predict where it's actually going to hit it. So I'm going to say let's go right here. Oh, we still have the random angle or random position. Let's get rid of all that. There you go. There. Okay, so that's going to keep it somewhat more predictable. And what we need to do is use the left and the right arrow, if you have the keyboard focus, to find the first frame where the lighting starts, and you want to have one bolt here, and then perhaps a second one, boom, nearby, and then nothing here, and then perhaps another one. Now you may want to give it a slightly different orientation. You can do that here as well, or you could use the X key shortcut or Y shortcut to blend it in a different way, to rotate it, to flip it, to flip it vertically, and then do another lightning here as well. So we have one more lightning here, boom, and this one we can do a little bit dragging, and so something like this. So we now have a whole lightning activity coming out here. There it is. And then of course there's some lighting on the right side. We don't see that one, it's too far away, but we can see this one. And sometimes what you'd like to do is also add some more brightening nearby, like under the clouds. When the lighting is hitting here, you may want to add a little bit of touch up. That's something you can easily do just manually. Let's go grab a large airbrush, for instance here, airbrush 100, and you see the size in the preview here. What you can do is make it very low opacity, and then make sure you use the right button to erase, rather left button. No, you want this in additive mode, and you want it color white. So right now I think we have, or maybe we need to set the matte color. Let's use matte brush style, color brush style. There you go. What are my colors? Oh, they're both blacks, that's why. I need something light. Okay, so let's see if we get this. There you go. So what you can do is you can that way add a little bit of brightness. Let's go zoom into that and add a little bit of brightness to this entire mystic area that kind of floods in this light, right? And again, do that from one light to the other. There, you don't want to see where the lightning bolt is actually coming out. You kind of hide it, keep it magical there, something like that. All right, so that's the idea on how to create something like this.